Hi, this is Bea from Sorcery Soap. I just wanted to say hi, Soap Witches. So I wanted to show you some things I've learned about stenciling and explain a couple things this week. We'll get back to my regularly scheduled complicated soaps soon enough, but for now I wanted to give you an idea and a heads up. Since I know plenty of you have picked up some stencils, I wanted to show you how just some of the things I've learned about putting delicate little features on with stencils. So this isn't, some of these, the smaller, the more detailed things takes a lot more delicate hand to do these. Anyway, this is the Tiffany. This is a soap batch was left over. I made these, I didn't calculate my soap batch or my soap recipe for my tall skinny mold, and I just poured it and I had some left over, so I put it in this, and then I got these odd shapes, which I think are kind of cool actually. I like them very much, and they're pretty small, short in stature, put it that way. So the stencils work for 3.5 by or 3 by 2.5, so they're within that parameter. So, and even if not, you can always put it like this and just leave a little bit of it off. So that works out pretty well, I think, as far as communication. These are some of them that I made. These are really delicate and tiny to do, and that's going to take a second, but I'll show you. And then of course we can, decorate them with anything, with micas or whatever. This has an iridescent mica, so you can only see it when you move it around a bit. And if you look at it straight on, it just looks like watercolor, which is kind of cool too. So, okay, so I have some tall skinny ones here. And I never really liked using tall skinny ones before, so now I do. There's no right or wrong way to put this on here, by the way. So I'm going to show you some of the equipment I use too. So some of these with these very delicate little lines, you can almost guarantee you're lucky if they come out. And I'll just put it that way, you're lucky if they come out. And so what I decided on these is if they come out, that's fine. If they don't come out, that's also fine, because as long as the shoes come out and the gloves come out, that'll be fine. I think what I did, I think I took out the lines for this one on the finished version. Yep, I did. So here you go. So you can see why this is important, like these little lines. Soap dough just doesn't want to let go of in between those little lines. Now this is a little bigger space, and let's see. So my first one I made was that small, right? And then my second one is a bit bigger, and I made the shoes bigger. I bulked up the shoes and the hands. Let me use this one instead, because this one's kind of a pain. So one of the things people have been asking is, first of all, they want to know what type of bar, cured, non-cured, all that. So this is cold process. I poured this at the beginning, I think is the 14th. Wait a minute. Yeah, I think I poured this at the 14th of this month. Yes, I poured it at the 14th. And I planed it, so I like them planed. But you can use them roughed up too in their like original cut version. So I planed it because I like it really smooth. So it's even harder to stencil on super smooth than it is something that's got a little grip to it. Maybe, I don't know. But it is pretty slippery. This is pretty slippery because as soon as you put this on here, it's going to move around. So you have to actually keep it in place while you're doing it. So that's one part of it. And you want it dry. You don't want it wet. So if you make a mistake, just wipe it off, scrape it off, wipe it off, and then flip it over, and then do that side. So we're going to do that. So I use a palette knife. This is the palette knife I found on, let me show you some of my other ones, on Amazon. And there's just so many that I decided not to endorse any particular one because they're hard to see which. So these are all the ones I have that I use. Now this one's pretty bendy. I bought this one particular because I wanted to get inside my, the molds when I pour a full loaf of soap. I wanted to get inside and scrape it, because if there's, what I learned is if there's pieces of soap that are stuck to the inside of the mold and you unmold it, it'll make drag marks on the outside of the actual loaf. And I didn't like that because then sometimes they're too deep and they're hard to plane off. So I got this to scrape all that around so they could get that free, because I'm not perfect and that I make poor mistakes periodically. And then I bought these. These were a set. There's a bunch of them. Like here, I bent the tip of this. Now I just use them as tools I don't care about. Well, and I'm going to tell you why. It's because, first of all, they're poorly made. These loosen eventually, and all this on the handles was stained and just dyed everything. I mean, I couldn't even get them clean. I soaked them, I scrubbed them, I did everything. You see how worn they are. And they just, every time I used them, this dye would come off of them. And so that was irritating. And again, they're garbage. They're just poorly made. They're not going to last you. So those are okay to start out with. I think there's like, I don't know, a handful of them, half a dozen you get for not very much money. And I wasn't sure what I was looking for, first of all. So that's part of that, was me sort of testing the waters to see exactly what I wanted. Then I upgraded to these. Now, I think this one's like $13. And that was the other thing. It just like killed me to think about spending $13 on one tool I wasn't even sure I was going to use. I didn't really know what I was going to do with it. Thank goodness I did, because I really like it. First of all, it lasts me a long time. The other thing I like about it is that it bends a bit. There's a little give in that, and that's nice. And it's small enough that it's just that place right there. So this one also, I bought this. I think I bought this on a whim at, which I rarely do, but I had a coupon for it over at Michael's. And it's a proper palette knife, you know, it's a little pointy, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, and I just thought, well, maybe I'll find a use for it. And this one was just a couple dollars, and so, you know, good on me that I picked it up. And it's okay for little small areas, but if you don't have like a flat surface like this, what happens is you end up leaving a mark with this, the front of it. So then you're only using this part of the blade, because this part right here you have to be really delicate, otherwise you leave a mark, which is okay because there's sometimes you want to get around, and I'll show you that too. And then this one, of course, like that. The problem with this is, see how the angle is? Like this one you get more pressure this way. This one is like, it's wonky pressure, so it's not my favorite, and I don't pick this up first. This is the one I pick up first. So with that said, let's move on. Okay, so this is my stencil. It's not how they're going to come, and this one's a little tore up a bit. I've used it a couple times, and the edges are a little bit ripped and torn, but this isn't how they come. This is my practice stencil. So the other thing that I do is I put my soap dough in an extruder, because then then I don't have to keep wrapping and unwrapping, and it's really fiddly. And that way I can just whip out a piece like this. I just figured out that's, and then I can kind of tell how much I need. So I'm going to use that, and I want it a bit soft. It's not sticky, but it's tacky. And the other thing I do is I have a cookie cutter sitting right here, because every time I run this, what I'm going to do is scrape it off here so that I have a clean palette knife. So let's get started. So we want to sort of center this on. And here's the other thing about these stencils, is that I left enough room for you to put your fingers down, because it's going to slide if you don't. And so you want to like put your fingers down and then start tacking it down. It doesn't have to be perfect at first, but just you want to tack it down essentially. Like that. And then the details don't matter so much, right, for right there. So we want to get as much of the bulk of this tacked down. You can see some of that neon doesn't always mix well in soap dough. Even in our soap dough, we miss a couple pieces of it. So that's what that is. But I find that not troublesome. Okay. And so this is part of the reason why, if your soaps are cured just a bit, now these are only cured a couple weeks, but if they're cured just a bit, if you push on them, you're not going to mar the underneath bar of it. So if you stencil on freshly made, you're going to have to be careful, because the harder you push on this, the easier it is to mar the bar underneath. Now, I don't really like paper towels. I have a washcloth here. I have a whole bin of cloths, washcloths, whatever you want to call them. I bought them. They're like super inexpensive over at Walmart, and I just use them for soap. And so I find them like one of my most favorite tools, except for when I'm making white soaps. Now, I just recently bought eyeglass, I forget what they're called, cleaners, cloths, eyeglass cloths, to see if that can help me keep the lint down on my white soaps. Because, you know, black soaps, you never see it, but white soaps. And then it's like I almost don't see it, and then when I get it under the camera, I get under bright lights, I go, oh my gosh, you know, it looks like I sprayed it with lint. So anyway, so I just take a little bit of this, and you can see my fingers are just a little bit moist, and then I put it on here because it's going to soften that soap dough just a bit. And if you want, you just dip your finger in water. It's not a big deal. And so the other thing is you want to think about where the angles of the stencil are. Here, let me show you this. So for example, I don't know if you can see this. See this right here? This line, it's called a bridge. And the reason you want to know where it's at is because you never want to go this way, because you'll shove soap dough under here and you'll not have a clean line. You want to go this way when you scrape it off. So where my angles are, I'm just going to start to reveal it a bit. And I'm going to start over here, right? And then, you know, hold it underneath. Don't hold because it's now pretty stuck. There we go. I'll show you what I mean. So you never want to go against the stencil itself, because it'll tear the stencil up, and it will also shove soap dough underneath the parts you don't want it shoved under. Okay, so now if you can see, this is pretty thin, right? It's a pretty thin, and I'm walking you through this so that you can see what I see. One of the things that I want is I want that earring to come out. And so in order to do that, I need to have as thin of a layer over top of this area as I can get, so that that comes out. Now I've taken some more out of the hair, which is fine. It's not that big of a deal because we're only putting a thin layer. We're communicating the idea of this through soap, right? So people always ask, well, how thick is that? Is that going to stay this, that, and the other? I don't know why permanence is so important to people. The world is transitory. Everything changes. Everything is evolving. So, you know, that artist Banksy, I know it's a rub too, because we want, you know, we love the paintings from the Renaissance or the ancient painters, and we want to hold and preserve those forever, and we keep refinishing them or touching them up in order to maintain them. In the meantime, all of our history is being, well, not all of it, but a good chunk of our history is being wiped out. So it is a contradiction. So for this talk, I'm just explaining soap. Soap is going to wear away. The majority of people, particularly here, you guys are thinking humans. You're thinking. You offer me awesome questions. You make me think, and that's it. And I hope to give that back to you equally. So we're looking at soap. We're looking at a thin layer of soap that you're going to communicate to somebody. This isn't permanent. The bar isn't permanent. So if someone wanted to go, the reason I started these stencils is because I wanted to be kind of quick and easy. And now I got really complicated, and now it's not as easy as it was in the beginning. Like a cat sitting, that's pretty easy. These little details, a little bit more difficult. So no, this isn't going to last for the length of the bar. And here's the other issue. You cannot, well, so far, we haven't come up with the idea yet, and I'm not there, make embeds with the exacting details of this. We haven't done that yet. So until we do that, stencils are going to have to do, in my opinion, or not. You know, maybe this is just a bridge to something else. But, so as we know, this is soap and it is temporary. So now I'm going to give it a little spray with alcohol. And why am I doing that? I've learned that it kind of loosens So I don't want my fingerprints on here, but it kind of loosens it up. And now I'm going to take it off very carefully, because if I rip it right off, I don't give it an opportunity to release. And there you go. That came out really nice. Even the little fingers came out really nice, which I'm really happy about. Now, so I have, okay, and so here's the other thing. I wanted to show you the brushes that I bought, my brushes and what I think about them, because that's the other thing people have been asking about. Okay. Okay, so blah, I've got so many brushes here. Okay. Let's see where I stand. So I have 2 different sets. I can't endorse any of these because I really don't know. I think there are better brushes out there. I just do. What I discovered is the makeup brushes lose bristles far less than the artist brushes. And okay, that's not entirely a true statement. What is a true statement is the artist brushes, individual brushes, don't serve my purpose for what I'm doing with this. And I have bought many of them, but I have to wait until they're on sale because they're ridiculously expensive, especially the horsehair and things like that. Okay, with that said, makeup brushes are more reasonably priced and generally tend to not lose their bristles as easily. I don't know why. So these are all my brushes. Some of them still have soap in them, apparently. So these I bought. See, I don't even know who these people are. I think these are all imports to the US. So I have no connection to the actual company. I just bought them. They're like $10, I think, $10 or $15 for a set of these. I like these for soft, of course, so that it doesn't leave bristle marks. And I like these for specific. And then these I love. These are really nice. These serve me really well. And so these are JAF makeup brush. I got them on Amazon because, you know, we have to feed the Amazon. What is it with Amazon? They make us pay for overnight, but they don't deliver overnight. I don't get it, but they get away with it. I just don't understand it. Anyway, so that, and then these are my lovely ones from Michaels, which I really, really like and have served me really well. And you can see they're super beat up, but there's a little bit of rubber right here. Don't care if that's there or not, but if there's a little piece that sticks up, all you have to do is push it down and then put a little water on top of it afterwards. And anyway, so there's that. So this is just the soap dough without any mica. Let's do one with mica on it, and then you can see how I do that, which I've put some up, but I just want to walk you through it and show you what I'm doing. Oh, here's a good one. Okay, so this one is going to come out. I call her Fashion Handbag, I think. So this one, yeah, I think. So her fingers are so little, and you know what I thought? I think it's better to try to get it than to eliminate it, because I could just make her hands like this, you know, and close off her fingers in the stencil itself. But I thought it might be better to try and succeed occasionally to get those fingers versus not even try at all. So this is a 2-parter, and I can't do the whole part, but I'll show you how it works. See how little those fingers are? I don't know if you can see that on camera, but anyway. Okay. Okay, so that was a good example. You see how I'm doing this, and then if I push too hard or if it starts to dry out, that soap dough comes up. I think that's what some people are having problems with. See, like that? So it's just a layer of this, right? And then of course it's such a thin stencil, because if we wanted to do an embed or make it bigger, I mean, I could do that, but I'm not really that interested in it. And plus, I like the idea that people have a hard time with temporary things. I guess. I don't know. Maybe I do. I really am not trying to send a message. I just think it's entertaining. And we think everything has to be so permanent, except that the goods that we have don't last near as long as they used to. I mean, we used to buy a pair of shoes, one pair of shoes or two pair of shoes, actually church shoes and school shoes, once a year. That was what we did. Anyway, that's because I know those things because I'm really old. Okay, so there we go. Oops, I didn't scrape it on here. I scraped it on here. That's the other reason why I put this cloth here. It helps things not move around. You know, they have those little cookie Lazy Susan things. I don't know if you've seen them. I have. I considered it for a second, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I do that much moving around to require that. And plus, it's just another little scribita, little chinga, little thing. You know, I like to have things that I actually use. I don't want to have something, but that's how I ended up with this palette knife, because I was like, I think I could use that. I didn't really know. Maybe someday. Okay, so, you know, it's a delicate balance to leave enough soap inside the stencil and then take enough off on the edge so that it releases comfortably. So this is, we're going to give it a try and see. I'm going to, oh, and here's the other thing. So I put a little moisture on my hand, and then when I do this and run my finger over it, it sort of brings it all together. The soap dough inside, like there's little creases here. If I want the creases, I don't have to do this, but if I want to smooth it all out and make it really smooth, I like things to look like ridiculously magical, like you go, oh my gosh, how did that happen? You know, that sensation is enjoyable to me, so I want others to experience that. Okay, so let's give it a little spray. Oh, I was going to dust it. Now, I don't think I should dust this one because here's the other issue too. So the more detailed the stencil, if you dust it, sometimes the harder it is to pull it off. Sometimes it, so I'm just going to do this right now because I really want to see if these fingers will come off. And so yes, I'm being excruciatingly delicate with this because I could see, yeah, see some of the fingers came off. Now, I don't think it takes away from it, and the chances of the fingers coming off or not coming off, don't really care. The idea is there, and they could, and they won't, you won't even have an opportunity for them to come off if I didn't include them. So that's a luck of the draw thing, in my opinion, because you can only get so small on this, and they haven't been approved by my supplier yet, so they might not even be able to cut that small. I might have to go back to the drawing board. Okay, so that said, right, there it is. It's just a silhouette. So I'd let this dry. I can't go back right now because it's still wet and it'll smear, but I let this dry, and then I go back and I place this exactly where it's supposed to be. You could see where the handbag's supposed to be. It'll cover that bridge right there, and then you could stencil a color on here. I'll put a picture of what I've done here for you. Okay, so let's do one with mica. Let's see, what do I have? Something a little bit bigger. Oh, let's do this one. This one. Did I do this? No, I didn't do that. Okay. So, is that the right one? No, it's not. Because, well, maybe it is. The shoes are a bit bigger. Yeah. Okay. See, okay, so, yeah. Well, we'll save that story for another day. Let's see if we could do this and get this to come off with mica, because it's pretty small, too. Now, if you don't have a palette knife, you can do this with other things. Credit card will work. Frosting scraper, if you happen to have that. Anything small that you can just give it a little scrape off with. So you don't absolutely need a palette knife. It just kind of helps. This one is gonna be tricky too, because there's details in here that I want to preserve, but I'm okay if they don't too. Okay. This might need a little bit more water. See if we can do that. That helps. I really want her belt to come off because the belt is a little crescent moon on it. And I think that's kind of cool. Okay. So I'm going to try and get in through here to get that belt off. There we go. Okay, so I took a little bit off of there, but I think that'll be all right. Just want to make sure her hair is good and thin. Okay, does that look okay? I think so. Maybe one more pass, because I want those legs to come out. I just remembered a dream. You ever have that where you're doing something, you remember a dream you had? I just remembered a dream I had. Someone was telling me something in my dream. It was very important. I wish I could remember. I remembered it when I first woke up. So I want to focus more on Patreon. I get sidetracked so easily, I guess, because I try to appease too many people. You know, and mostly, like, I don't appease the complainers. I just don't. So the louder the voice of the complaint, the more I push away from that. But when people are nice to me, I really do try to help. And so I was getting a lot of positive feedback on YouTube, and then I started focusing on that, and I put all those stencils. So, you know, you guys are awesome, and you ask me great questions. Just a sec. And that's what this place is for. So I'm going to try and focus on this a bit more in the future. So okay, so let's see, what do I have? Let me do something dramatic. Okay, so the black, here's the other thing too. You can use any color soap dough for this. This I used white, and that came out very different. And then of course we're going to use black. You can use any color soap dough. And the reason that I use black oftentimes is because it saturates the, so here the iridescent, it saturates it, but it also gives sort of a black line around it. So let's see, what do I have? Oh, I have this is one of my other, same thing, paint, the brush that I was showing you. So if you, well, I'll just show you. So I sort of pack it on. But if I start drawing it across too much, I'm going to leave lines, no matter how soft my brush is. So, and then I need to cross hatch it so that it doesn't, it looks, I want it to look or appear sprayed on. I don't know why. I want it to look like sort of magical, and like you look at it and you have to ask, how did that happen? How did they do that? And that's just my own personal thing. Okay. So I try really hard not to waste anything. So I just put this back in here. That's why you don't use very much mica. So here, and because I was talking, here's the other thing too. I was talking, this isn't, like if I had just done this and then packed it on there, the sooner you can put that mica on, because it's wet, essentially, wet soap dough, right? The more you're going to be able to saturate that. So I could see that it's coming through a bit, and I didn't, but that's okay. It's just for demonstration, right? Okay, I gave it a little spray because I want it to release. Let's see. There, let go. Fine. Yeah, that's nice. There we go. Ah, I'm so happy with that. That makes me happy. Okay, great. So this is the brush that I have to put her fingers in place. And then any of the little things that flipped up. And other than that, it's all done. So yeah, it takes a minute. In these, like, I'm going to do a whole series of these. That's why all the pink ones are going to get the women dancers on them. And so it's going to take a minute to do these, but somehow I simply don't mind it. You know, I don't mind doing this. And then, of course, you could go through and clean this up just a bit. So some of the other stencils are easier and you can whip them out a little bit faster. But I guess I just want to say that none of what we do is like super efficient because it's handmade. We're not machines. We do things with thought and care and practice and skill to the point where we get a little bit of mastery over what we're doing so that we can sort of still be amazing humans. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a really lovely Sunday. And thanks for all your great questions. And we have a new soap stencil set up now, which is just all the stencils that we have produced so far. And hopefully in future I'll be able to group them. But I really want people to get the stencils and start trying them and using them, because you're going to have to practice with the bigger stencils, the thicker, or not thicker, the simpler designs to get to some of this. I think you will. And maybe not. Anyway. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. All right. Bye.